Okay, if you are a Sony cinema camera shooter like I am, you are familiar with all of the firmware update madness that's been happening. Most recently, there was a firmware update that went out for FX3s and 6s, and there was a bunch of bricked cameras as a result of it. Some people had to pay like $700 just to get their cameras working again. So apparently there is... Okay, that was fixed, by the way. I think that was fixed, and I think there was some user error involved, but it was very confusing, and the way Sony handled it was very poor, in my opinion, from what I'm reading, from doing all of my Reddit research, which is the most evil place on earth. So, of course, it sounds bad. But apparently there's an even newer update to the next firmware update.
So Sony have just released a firmware roadmap that I want to talk to you guys about. It's only going to be pretty short. I will talk about the FX3, FX30, FX6. The most popular ones, FX3 and FX30 first, then FX6. They are pretty minor, but one of the caveats is that the FX3 and FX30 is coming in September 2025. And the FX6 firmware is actually coming in February 2026.
Okay. My two cameras are the FX3 and the FX6. So according to this, my most recent firmware update is what I have for at least a year. Okay, for my FX3, that's what I'm working with. It's fine. It's working fine now. It's working fine. There was some bugs, but it's working fine now. My FX6, there will not be any firmware updates until 2026. I can't even wrap my head around 2025 yet. And you're talking about 2026. That just sounds insane. Okay, so what exactly is going into this firmware that'll require me to be eager to wait till 2026?
The FX3 is version 7 and the FX30 is version 6, and essentially what's going to be coming with this is the Big 6 menu. Now, this is pretty interesting because the Sony Venice and the Sony Burano actually do have this. You know, the RE cameras have it on the side of the camera. Essentially, we're going to see the frame rate, the shutter, the iris, the ISO, white balance, and probably what kind of picture profile we're in, because most of them show ND filters, but these don't have internal ND filters. Only the FX6 will probably get that. You can actually see the FX6, so it'll just have, you know, 3 at the top, 3 at the bottom, and a whole bunch of information in the middle. And it's going to be useful for video shooters, mainly the people who actually use external monitors, because it completely blocks your whole screen. You don't actually have an image on that screen except for all the information that's there, so you're going to need an external monitor to see it. And the last one is actually adding the support for B-RAW. So I did announce this on my Instagram. We're going to have the ability to record B-RAW directly into the Blackmagic Video Assist. And that's just going to be great for DaVinci users, because obviously B-RAW is supported in DaVinci and ProRes isn't. So that's going to be great for them.
First of all, I'm very glad I didn't buy that Blackmagic monitor, because I was ready to buy that once I heard that the next update will allow for Sony shooters to shoot in B-RAW. So that's not happening. The other feature is the menu thing that he mentioned. And then there's also anamorphic de-squeeze, which I never shoot anamorphic, so I don't really care as of now. So that tells me a few things. This update, if they're willing to wait that long for an update, they might be working on some other things to include in the update, and possibly AI, maybe. The fact of the matter is, all of these cameras, quality-wise, they can't get any better. They can get better. They can get better. But people aren't ready to view better. We're already pushing 6K as standard in a lot of these newer cameras, but a majority of the audiences are watching in 1080 on their iPhones. Okay, so there is just no use. There's no purpose for that. So that being said, you don't really need to push the technology that much further in that regard. So Maybe there is new innovative ways of pushing the technology where Sony feels like it's worth waiting a year of camera sales. The second thing that tells me is that I'm not going to see a new Sony cinema camera in the FX3 or FX6 line for at least a year for both. And for someone like me who is waiting for an upgrade to the FX6 to upgrade so I can use my current FX6 as a B camera, I'm now going to look elsewhere. Now, elsewhere might be another FX6. That might be what I end up doing. But there are a whole lot of new cameras out there, some very nice looking cinema cameras that I am eager to try out. So they just opened the door for me to explore. And that's what's going to happen. All right, Sony?